All right, here is a speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1992 for the Shluchim convention, the convention of the Chabad emissaries. That's the word for it. There's Chabad houses all over the world. In addition to that, there's institutions of Chabad all over the world. And then there's also a little less formal institutions of Chabad all over the world. There's people that do all sorts of outreach in a fairly organized way in the world. And they all get together. Usually when they get together, where they get together is the last Shabbat of this month of Cheshvan. The last Shabbat. Shabbat Mavorchim is called. Right before that, they all get together. It's grown in number. In the beginning, there was it was started in like the 80s, I think. Maybe even in the 70s there was some. I don't think so. In the 80s. I don't remember when the first one was. But anyways, now there's like 5,000 people that get there. And there's like basically two nowadays. There's one. Anyway, it's not important. So in this, the Rebbe is speaking. So this is the last Shluchim convention that the Rebbe spoke at. The Rebbe would always speak. Shortly thereafter, the Rebbe had a stroke. And that stroke left him paralyzed. He wasn't able to speak. And that lasted a year and a half, something like that. And then there was Gimel Tammuz, and the Rebbe passed away. This is open to what happens when a tzaddik passes away. Could it possibly be? And the Rebbe, who he's the Moshiach, it can't be that he passed away. So what exactly is that? That left all sorts of different interpretations and different feelings, soul feelings, but nevertheless, and that's where we are today. We're waiting impatiently for the Rebbe to come and do what Moshiach is supposed to do. Moshiach is supposed to be a person, and we have all the criteria for the Rambam, and the Rebbe fills all those criteria, as he has to come and fix up the world, like it says, to make everybody realize what God is. Okay, so how did the Rebbe do this? How can one person change the whole world? So the Rebbe sent out all these emissaries called Shluchim in the whole world. And interestingly enough, this week's Torah portion talks about an emissary that Abraham sends his servant, his faithful servant, Eliezer, who's not a Jew, happens to be he's not a Jew. But he and Eliezer together, they fought against these four kings, and he sends this Eliezer to be his emissary, to find a bride for Abraham's son, Isaac, Yitzchak. So emissary. So this week Torah portion is talking about emissaries getting things done, right? Instead of Abraham doing it himself. And according to Kabbalistic teachings, which we're seeing now, I hope, are much more important and practical than we might have thought previously, because that's the soul behind everything. So this idea of Abraham finding a wife, Rivka, for his son, Yitzchak, has tremendous Kabbalistic and spiritual, and therefore, future meanings and implications. Especially the biggest one of all is the Moshiach. Moshiach is going to be a person that's going to unite the upper worlds with the lower worlds. Yitzchak is sort of like the upper worlds, and Rivka is sort of like the lower worlds. And he's going to reveal that God is one, right? So here it is. The Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe, is speaking to his emissaries, just like Abraham spoke to Eliezer, his servant. And he's telling them, you got to find a bride for my son. You have to make this unity in the world. You have to unify the creator with the creation to reveal God in the world. The only way you can do that is by encouraging Jews to do Torah and commandments and thinking about, talking about, acting about Mashiach. The whole thing is Mashiach. That's the whole goal. That's the reason why the world was created. That's what we've been waiting for, and here it is. The time is here. And that's the main gist of this speech that the Rebbe is giving to all of his shluchim. And after the Rebbe had a stroke, so for about a year and a half, the Rebbe would come out. They would bring him out on a marpesed. He couldn't walk. They would bring him on a wheelchair, and he was still totally conscious. You could see with his eyes, and his left arm still worked. Yes, his left arm was still working, and you could see he was. And everyone would sing, Yechi Adonenu Morenu Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach. Long live the Rebbe, the King Mashiach. That's what they sang for about a year and a half until Gimel Tammuz came, and the Rebbe passed away, and then there became tremendous confusion. The confusion came especially because the Maimonides gives qualifications for Mashiach, and also gives the qualification, the criteria for the disqualification of the Mashiach. When is the Mashiach a person that we thought could be Mashiach, but disqualified? So he brings if he's killed, or if he fails. And the Rebbe was not killed, as far as I know. I mean, I don't think somebody snuck into the hospital room, killed him. And also we see he definitely did not fail. Chabad is growing and growing and growing constantly. So, okay. So let's now get to what the Rebbe actually said. Here we go. Shabbos Parshas Chaye Sora. Chafei Mar Cheshvan, blessing of the month of Kislev. Right, it's the last Shabbat of every month. Blesses, we say a special prayer for blessing the next month. This is opening of the Kinus HaShluchim Olami, the convention of the Rebbe's emissaries, of his Shluchim, of his representatives in the world. Ba'amdu, says the Rebbe, Mamadno, down we're standing. Now we're beginning the convention of the shluchim of the world, the emissaries. Hashluchim, Shiachia, these are all emissaries of Kabbat Kedushas Morichami, of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Rebbe always considered himself to be nothing more than just the continuation of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he said many, many times that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he was the Mashiach, and that he'll take us out of the exile, and he'll come back from the dead, and he'll take us out of exile. The Rebbe said that about the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe many times, and the Rebbe said, I'm just sort of holding the fort until the previous Rebbe comes back. But eventually it became pretty obvious that the Rebbe, when he was referring to the previous Rebbe, he was referring to himself. Because it's just like one sort of a chain of Rebbes. Each one is basically fills the place of the one before him. So it's the same thing with the Rebbe. But in any case, it's not really that important. We're waiting desperately for Mashiach to come. And the Rebbe is saying, who is the Mashiach? The Mashiach is the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. And these are all the emissaries. That they'll all come back from the four corners of the world. Tzorich lazkir. So now that we're all gathered together, all of the emissaries of the Rebbe from the four corners of the world, we have to mention first Hayesod, the foundation, Ulovateh, and to express the job of the Shluchim in our generation, and especially the new idea, which was added on, especially now in this job that all of the representatives have. What's your job is L'kabel Panei Mashiach, to receive the face of the Mashiach, Begula Mitit Shlema, in the true redemption. That's it, said the Rebbe. Never changed, never will change. The whole purpose of Chabad, of Judaism, of the world, of mankind, is only to bring Mashiach. Until Mashiach comes, this person, we're like the Jews stuck in Egypt. Until Moses came along, they were stuck. Nobody dreamed of getting out. And even when Moses came, still nobody really could believe it. They were so steeped in their comfort zone mentality that they couldn't dream that Mashiach is going to take them out. Like we said, but nevertheless, that's our job. We're Chabad, we're going to wake up the world. We're going to improve the world. We're going to bring blessing to the world, meaning to the world. By what? By receiving the face of the Mashiach, Begula Mitzvah Shlema, and the complete redemption. So just like back then, they had to listen to Moses. So now they have to listen to the Mashiach, but a little bit different. Back then, the majority of Jews did not listen to Moses. It says that 4/5 remained in Egypt. And now all the Jews are going to listen to the Rebbe. Like we said many times, that in addition to the common factor, in all of this, all of you emissaries of the Jewish people, and especially because you are not just Jewish emissaries, but you're the emissaries of God, which is, what do you mean I'm emissary of God? What is this? Sounds a little bit sort of fantastic. Says, no, every human being is an emissary of God. Like it says, Ani nivresi l'shamish eskoni. I was only created to serve my Creator. That's the reason we're here. We can never forget that we are just creations, and not that we were created back in the time of Adam, right, 5,000 whatever years ago, or when the time of the Cro-Magnon man or Piltdown man, or was it 20 billion years ago, whatever you want to say. No, we're being created every single instant, brand new, by the Creator. Why? To serve Him, to improve the world. The world needs fixing. Especially Shal Shluchim Shal Nasidreinu, and now especially these, we are the emissaries of the leader of our generation, Nakuda Mishutefes Sheshava Bakal Zamanim. This is something which is never going to change. And even more, Mitvosef Mizman, it increases constantly and constantly. The Shlichus Miyuchedes, our purpose, our job, Shichoderes Vihi Shar Sha'al Yado Olim, that we go all of the Shlichus. The whole idea of being a shliach, right? There's times they find, I don't know if they find them anymore, they find like soldiers from the Japanese army that were stationed on some sort of weird islands, in the middle of the Pacific, and they still think the war is going on. They think it's going on. They're still, they're still loyal to the emperor. By them, they thought the emperor was God. They're loyal to the emperor, and they do everything. Okay, but as time goes on, right, and especially they lost the war, so it gets weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker, right? The less and less people believe in this until finally, the only way they find one of these guys, and it happened. I heard they find these people in some sort of a bizarre island, and they terrorize like the people that live there. They have to look around and find like the general or someone that was over this guy, and he says, "I'm your general. You remember me? Oh yes, I do. Why aren't you in army clothes? It's because we lost the war. Oh, I don't believe. Maybe you're lying." He says, "No, listen, I'm not lying. I'm telling you the truth. Here's pictures of Japan. Here's pictures of your wife. Here's a picture of your, right?" Oh yeah. Then finally he realizes we lost the war. But says the Rebbe, we're also the same thing. We're emissaries, but we have not lost the war in any way. And exactly opposite, the war is only just beginning, and it's increasing all the time. And we have the purpose in front of us is more and more, important. How much more so? Chidush Kololi, there's a brand new thing that we're doing. She'einu rak prat, this is not just a detail, but this is the main whole purpose. The whole main purpose in our service, Hachana, preparing the world for the coming of the Mashiach. Shamakif et kol hanakudot, that this encompasses and clothes in it all of the details, and all of the details and all of the specifics of the service of Shlichus, right? Where your Chabad house is going to be, who's going to be the janitor, how many you're going to open up a school for children, you're going to open up a school for older people, all the details that are there, right? To build another building, to build a mikveh, to build this, all of the things that's all is just details. in the one general goal and purpose, and that is to bring Mashiach. That's the whole thing of Chabad. Only that. It's not to be popular. It's not to be those. Those are only details, and not in any way goals. Like we see with Abraham. What was the goal? The goal was to serve God. That he had a son that was called Isaac, Yitzchak, and that he served God all of his life. Those were only details to bring to serving God. If it meant he had to lose all of the details, but this is the main point. The point is to bring Mashiach. Like we said many times, and especially in the last months and weeks, Alpi Odas Chazal, what the rabbis say, Shekavar Kol Kitzim. It says in the Talmud, this is already 1,500 years ago, who knows, 6,000 years ago. He said that all the projected times that Mashiach is supposed to come, and Jews have always been crazy and trying to figure Mashiach has to come any second. Maybe he's going to come in this year. Maybe this. All the projected times have already passed. Odas covered Kedushas, and the previous Rebbe said, Shekavar Asu Tshuva, that everyone has already fixed themselves up. Ad Shekavar Siyum Mukol and Yani Avoda, that all of the general service has been done, even the Tzach Kaftarim, even to shine up the buttons for the parade for Mashiach, and we are ready to receive Mashiach. Hari Avoda as Shlichus now is, what do we have to do now? Right? Is Liyot Muchanim, to be prepared and actual, to receive the face of Mashiach actually. In other words, yes, you're supposed to makarav people, you're supposed to make more people religious, you're supposed to build your Chabad house, build your reputation, spread out Judaism, teach Torah to everybody as much as you can, make lectures, make movies, make videos, whatever you can do to spread out Judaism, but that's all not the goal. Those are details, steps to go to the goal. If there's other ways to do it other ways. The main thing is to never be forgotten. Our goal is not to add people, is not to spread out Judaism, is not to learn Chassidut. That is not our goal. Our goal is to bring Mashiach. And all of these things are just steps. Even Tomchei Tamimim, the yeshivas, is only just a step to bring Mashiach. They're the soldiers of Mashiach. Moving from this is understood. That's the whole purpose of the Kenes HaShluchim, to speak together and to come out with all sorts of resolutions. Almanat, in order to do the how can we bring out the special shlichus of our time to receive the Mashiach? Let's try to do this next one. We started late. Biur shlichus. Let's see what I have a note over here. What's this? Somebody said something. What's this? Moshe Goros. That's right. Moshe is a. It means that the last Redeemer will be like Moshe. He'll be like Moshe, and he'll have a spark, it says, of Moshe's soul. He'll teach us Torah. That's the main thing of the Moshe. He taught us Torah. There'll also be, it says that Mashiach is going to be David, Mashiach ben David, it says. Semach David. Biur Shaykh is the connection between this shlichus with the Mashiach. Why does the Rebbe have to have shluchim to send out the? Why the Rebbe? He's the Mashiach. Let him just announce, "Here I am." That's it. What do you have to have shluchim all over the place to explain and to bring Mashiach? What's the connection? Why? We can understand the Shechas of Mashiach himself with the whole idea of shlichus. Let's understand what is shliach. What does it mean, an emissary? And what exactly is Mashiach? We see by Moses, right, like you just said, that Moses by the burning bush. So God said, take the Jews out of Egypt. And Moses said, listen, God, I can't talk. I have a big speech impediment. You know it. So, maybe you can cure my speech impediment. God said, no, I'm not going to. In fact, when was Moses' speech impediment cured? When? At Mount Sinai. Which Mount Sinai was 50 days after they got out of Egypt. That was Mount Sinai. So here they're going into, this is like a year and 50 days before, and he can't speak. Moses can't speak. He slurs his words. I don't know exactly what his speech impediment was, but he says covered lashon. So Moses, not only that, what was he? Was a shepherd. All of a sudden God picks him and go and take the Jews out of Egypt. So Moses says, listen, I just ran away from there. They want to kill me over there. I can't go back. I'm going to go. I got myself out of there only with, but skin of my teeth. You want me to go and take out all the Jews from Egypt? It's just, it's not, I have no connections over there. How am I going to? You know what, God? Shalach na bi'ati shalach. Send somebody else. Moshe said to God, when God sent him, he said, Moses, you be my emissary. Israel to take the Jews out of Egypt. And the rabbis say, Omer Lefanov, Moses said, Omer Moshe Lefanov, God, Moses spoke in front of God. God said, okay, Moshe, good news, you go and take the Jews out of Egypt. So Moses said, Rabbon Shalom, listen, Shalach nabi ati shalach. What are you sending me for? In the end, the Jewish people are just going to go into exile again. Maybe send the Mashiach. Shu atid lagalot. Send Mashiach now. Why do it in 2 stages? You're going to send me now. First of all, I can't speak very well, and I got problems. But listen, in the end, the Jewish people are just going to go into exile again, right? They're just going to, you know what's going to happen, and you're going to have to send Mashiach. So maybe send Mashiach now. Why do it in 2 stages? That's what I mean. Shalach di abed shalach. According to this, Yesh Lomar, we can say, Shebe Mashiach, and Mashiach, Mashiach is already an emissary, according to the Torah. Shalach, right? He's an emissary of God. Mashiach hu shaliach. He is the emissary of God, L'goel et Yisrael, to redeem the Jewish people. Hatam b'pashtus lakach. The reason for this is Moshe bikesh. So the reason that Moses even made such a request is like Rashi says, b'yad acher. Moses said, send somebody else. Shetirtze, whoever you want to. She'ein sofi, because in the end, I'm not going to bring them into the land of Israel. Ulios golam latid, and to redeem them in the future and build the 3rd temple. Yesh lecha shluchim harba. God, you have a lot of other emissaries that are just as genuine and brave and more so than I am. Since in any case, Lo Shalach Kodesh Baruch Hu and Moshe, since Moses wasn't going to bring the Jews into the land of Israel, and he wasn't going to build a 3rd temple that was going to be eternal, Ella Yishlach Shaliach Acher, but he's going to send Mashiach, as Moses said, Yishlach Mashiach Lios Golam Shel Yisrael Kam Mitzrayim. So Moses said, listen, if Mashiach can do it, so let him do it now. Why do you have to send me? We have to understand. So if so, Moses called the Mashiach, he called him an emissary of God. He was saying, why should I be the emissary? Send the final emissary. We have to understand, Vadai, certainly Moses understood. Moses certainly understood, and especially because Moses wasn't a normal person. Moses, in the end, he was the only one that could take the Jews out of Egypt and receive the Torah. Good, he wasn't the final redeemer, but he was a holy of holies, Moses. Moses went into the Holy of Holies. He stayed there for 40 days and 40 nights and then he went again, and he went the 3rd time. And right, even on Yom Kippur, the high priest goes into the Holy of Holies, that's where the tablets are. He stays there. How long does he stay? A few minutes. Can't take it longer than that. Moses was with God 40 days on Mount Sinai, 40 days and 40 nights, and he did it 3 times. Moses was the ultimate level of holiness. Moshe Kibul Torah, received the Torah. Shekodesh Baruch Hu Atzmo. God knew Shuatid Lishloach and Mashiach. God knew, yes, Moses certainly knew that God was going to send the Mashiach and not Moshe to redeem the Jewish people in the future. Nevertheless, nevertheless, God chose Moses to redeem the Jewish people from Egypt. What is Moses saying to God? I don't want to go send somebody else. What's he saying to God? You made a mistake. God, you're wrong. What are you talking about? How can Moses say anything like that? Moses was the ultimate highness. Moses, good, he knew he wasn't going to be Mashiach. He wasn't going to get the Jews out of the exile and build the 3rd temple. Okay, but that God also knew it. So God wants to do it in stages, that Moses first, and then after that. So let God do things the way he wants to. No, Moses says, no. Why did Moses request Shalach Naba Tishlach? How could Moses suggest that God was making a mistake and he should say, listen, why send me? Send the Mashiach. But God said, listen, I want to send you. I'm going to do this thing in stages. Leave me alone. Moses said, no. Listen to what I'm saying. Don't send me. Send the Mashiach. What he's trying to tell God what to do. What was wrong with doing it in stages? What's wrong? God knows what he's doing. On the other hand, since that Moses, he requests this from God. Moses wasn't just doing it because of egotism. Moses was a tremendously holy person and he knew the truth. If Moses was requesting this, he wasn't just requesting it for any sort of even vaguely selfish reason. He was doing it because that is the truth. If so, why didn't God receive his request? Moses certainly was not saying, God, you're wrong. He was trying to make things better. Why didn't God accept his request? We can say that this it's self-understood. Because this is the request of Moses, and it's even brought in the Torah, and the Torah is the ultimate truth, and the Torah is eternal. As it must be that if Moses requested it, it did happen. That same emissary that God sent to redeem the Jewish people from Egypt, which was Moses, who yishlach, God will also send to redeem the Jewish people in the future. Like it said before, right? That's what you just said, Menachem. Shemoshe, who goel rishon, then Moses is the first redeemer, took us out of Egypt, and he'll be the last redeemer. He'll take us out of our exile that we're in now. That was the intention of Moses when he said, Shalach na biyad tishalach. God, you like emissaries. You want to do things through emissaries. The Rebbe, remember, is saying this whole speech in front of his emissaries. You want to do things through emissaries. If so, God, do me a favor, even though that God knew, Moshe knew, that God knew that he was not going to send Moses, that he was going to send another person. He was going to be the Mashiach, right? Mashiach ben David, the Kasher. But Moses, what did he do? By means of his request, he tied together the first Redeemer with the last Redeemer. Shagama Geula Rishona, that even the first redemption from Egypt will already be attached directly to Biyad Tishalach, to the Mashiach, to the last Redeemer. In other words, the first emissary, Moses, will be attached directly. It'll be one continuous pipe from Moses to the Mashiach. Bagam, Geula, and also the last redemption will be by means of Moshe. Goel Acharon. He'll do it. Like we said before, Moses was from the tribe of Levi, and the Mashiach is going to be from the tribe of Yehuda. We'll talk about that. Kalomar, in other words, even though that Moshe and Mashiach, they are two different people. Moses was the tribe of Levi, and Mashiach is from the tribe of Yehuda. Beit David. Nevertheless, Morim shel Shneim and Yanim, and they indicate on two totally different things. Nevertheless, they are attached and unified one with the other, like we're going to talk about later. So here the Rebbe is going to talk about the job of the Mashiach and how that, so to speak, without us emissaries, and the Rebbe is going to say later on, who are these emissaries? The Rebbe is going to say a very shocking thing. Here he's speaking to his emissaries. Let's say there was 1,000 people there at that time. So you would think that the Rebbe was supposed to say something like, only you can do it. If it's not done, you can't do it, right? And there's a lot of work to do. A lot of work has to be done, and you have to do it. What's the Rebbe going to say? The Rebbe is going to say, the work is already finished. It's already finished. And you're not the only ones that can do it. Every single Jew is now my emissary. That's what the Rebbe is going to say. You're going to see it. Every single Jew is going to be it, right? You think that the Rebbe will say, you are the special ones, you have to do it, you can go. The Rebbe says, every single Jew is my emissary. You are shluchim. Eved Avraham Anochi. Okay, my friends, we'll talk about this more, God willing. Tomorrow we'll continue. But it's very, very inspiring. Very, how do you say, heartbreaking in a way, that by the Rebbe, everything was so close. And by some people, it was very far. But we'll see about it. Let's talk about this. Okay, now here we go. Let us do the Yom Yom. Here we go. A response of the Alter Rebbe in Yechidus to somebody. Chassidut, learning the writings of the Rebbes, is Shema Yisrael. The word Shema is an acronym. It's the first letter, Shema, Shin, Mem, Ayin. Su'u, Marom, Enechem. Lift up above your eyes. Raise your eyes on high. It doesn't say raise your eyes to heaven. It says on high. What does it mean on high? It means higher and higher and higher. You're never finished. You have to attain a level which is beyond understanding. And this you have to understand as much as possible. Like it says, lift up your eyes, and see who created these. Right? It's a sentence from Isaiah 22. The idea is to try to see not just spiritual, but the creator of the spiritual, which there's no end to how much we have to elevate our minds and our soul to try, but we have to try. That's Shema Yisrael. That's the motto of Judaism. Have a good day with Moshiach. Now, God willing, at 3:00, we'll continue our learning. Hope to see you. Have a good day with Moshiach now.
Thank you very much.